and welcome to the second part of our interview with Joanna Iatridou. Joanna had been telling us about this experience that she had here, where she was electroshocked and in fact tortured by this being she calls the vertical rainbow person, aligning it to Ra. But anyway, there were some medical implications from this experience, and I would like Joanna to tell us what they are, because I think this is also very important. Joanna.
So what happened after that was my eyesight, which was 20/20 up to 1974, started deteriorating very rapidly. So I lost 12 out of 20 of my eyesight on both eyes in the next 4 years. And since then I'm wearing these very, very thick glasses. And the other thing that happened was my growth stopped, so I stayed 5'2", which was the height I had in 1974 when I was 16. So my growth stopped, and I think this has a similarity with the body in the life support, because those bodies are designed not to have any growth hormone.
And you mentioned also your thyroid.
My thyroid was gone. Destroyed 100%. Plus I had circulation problems. The only thing I managed to fix, so the medical impact was huge, and it looks like there is a resonance. There's a resonance between the human body and any other body, and I think that this resonance may very well be some initial or superior goals that link the two bodies together. Maybe our true self is consolidated in energy, and it affects both bodies.
Right.
So loss of eyesight, thyroid damage, stopping of growth, circulation problems. To compensate for that, I did martial arts later on. So I was in very good shape, but this didn't fix my eyes or my thyroid.
Okay.
And it didn't bring back the growth hormone. It didn't. The bottom line from this experience is that I thought I had free choice with my life. The shadow ghosts and the angels were friends, and they showed up in human form. But the aliens had a different program for me, so I wasn't supposed to exteriorize from my body to achieve the end goal of Scientology and be free from my body. I wasn't supposed to marry the wrong man, so they actually stopped me. They actually terrorized us in Switzerland to stop this relationship. Because if I had married this guy and went to Germany, I also had to have an abortion then. If I had kept the child, married the guy and lived in Germany, I was never going to find myself in England and meet the shadow people from 1962. And that was the whole point, that in 1978, by meeting someone I find compatible, I was going to wreck the plan of these aliens, or whatever else I had decided before I was born, because we all do. So clearly I had a different program before I was conceived and born. Then I meet this German guy and I say, right, fine. I don't mind being pregnant, I'll marry him, we are a perfect match. So this guy shows up again, and
when you say this guy, you mean this
vertical rainbow with this
E.T.
pharaoh personality. This pharaoh personality shows up to terrorize us like a poltergeist, and to make me decide to have an abortion and give up the relationship. And 1978, and that was crucial because otherwise I wouldn't be in Britain, and I wasn't going to find out that we have all made agendas and decisions before we were even conceived. And then we forget everything So that's why we do have interference.
And so, just to pick up from that, Joanna, because I know we want to talk about the past life and the Pleiadian aspect, but what? So you came to Britain and you had this meeting in 2001 of these shadow beings from 1962, so 39 years later, on the button. What is the outcome of that for you so far? So here we are, 2001, 2011, 10 years on. What has that meant? That you met these beings again, these people again, who didn't even know that they were previous.
They didn't, but obviously I remembered especially those shadows who were threatening, because the things they said about my parents had already happened.
Oh, had it?
So my mother had passed away very suddenly. She fell off the balcony, and it was after midnight. So it was a sudden and shocking death. She lost her balance.
And how old would you be at that time?
It was 95, 96. Okay. So my mother was 57.
Right.
And she was in Greece, I was in London. And I meet those shadow people in 2001. So my mother already had this death. Which was exactly what they described. They didn't tell me she's going to fall from the balcony.
No, but sudden.
But they said it's going to be sudden and shocking. And my father had passed away from cancer 1984. So he was 67. Now normally people in my family get to reach 80 to 85. So matter of fact, what the shadow people were threatening, that my parents will die young, it came out true.
But they said that this was also down to you. How do you reconcile that? How does that work?
How do I reconcile that?
I don't mean, you know,
yes,
how do you,
yes,
how do you
it's a
make
very
yourself
good
feel better?
question. It's a very good question. I can't see how I was going to learn more questions and get more data from this shadow friend of mine. However, I thought I need to question the Grim Reapers. Why do they have this attitude with me? And from Scientology, asking questions at cause. We always start at cause. In Scientology. Let's say you have a violent husband. So we have someone who says, oh, my husband is beating me up every day. A Scientologist will put the victim at cause. Have you ever harmed your husband? Have you ever hidden something from your husband? So the victim says, oh yes, once I was hiding my husband's favorite leather gloves. So I bent one of his gloves and I took revenge on him.
Okay, so we now just to...
So you just put the victim at cause, asking him whether he has done something good or has something bad, but at cause point to his aggressor, to shift the viewpoint. So with these entities, I thought I was trying to put together some questions, what to ask them. And I did. First of all, I asked them, who are you? Which they answered fully. Then I asked them, what intention of yours have I harmed? Now, from the question, who are you, they gave me so much data that I spent a week on that. What intention of yours have I harmed? It was another several days.
So can you tell us shortly, just in a very short way, who they are?
These... Then I went to another question. I wouldn't want to do that. What do you want from me now? Have we? No, I asked them, have we ever lived together before? What do you want from me now? What have we promised each other before the beginning of time? We come to the things that we call oaths or eternal oaths. So these were entities. these questions, to run these questions, it took 6 months. The actual material that they gave telepathically lasted something, from the tsunami disaster, which was about December 26, 2004. The whole charge had, and the whole, their presence had dissolved by July 2005.
Which presence had dissolved?
These entities,
the Grim
shadow
Reaper ones.
people, the Grim Reaper ones.
Okay.
Because clearly, the only thing I could do now was find out who they are, what intentions had I harmed, have we lived together before, had we promised something else before the beginning of time.
And did you find out who they were?
Yes, I did. I found everything out. And not only that, this diffused all these threatening, the whole threatening presence. And it also opened all my past lives. Right through the last 3,000 to 4,000 years. So one after the other, my past lives, it was like so it took me another 1 year to come to terms with my past lives. On the basis of what had I done to those entities. So with me at cause, I had caused the death. The justification, my justification was national security. So it was in France, it was 460 years. I felt that if I don't actually kill them first, they were Protestants, they were going to cut our throats. So I was in a position gathering intelligence, and I had a crucial role to triggering a slaughter, which is known as the St. Bartholomew's Massacre.
Okay.
And I did manage to find out what was my name, possibly, because I didn't remember my name from what I've done. But then I moved on to all my other past lives, and by 2007 I found out that I also have a Pleiadian body, and these Pleiadian bodies, or Palladians as they're called, they're about 12 foot tall, speak another language. They have very strong energy, but they're energy bodies, they're not obviously flesh. They don't die, that's the difference, but they can fall in a coma, and I don't know how many people on Earth actually used to be Pleiadians, and they can't take that body out from a comatose. So the reason why we communicate from the flesh communication station is because when we were Pleiadians, our bodies were impacted by something and went comatose. And when we had grey bodies, our bodies are hostage in life support machines, and any time these scientists or Satans or demons want, they can actually pull us there and torture us. And maybe that's what they say, oh, you go to hell after if you sin. Or
and what
but this is a medical infrastructure, it's not...
But what is the reasoning behind this torture, which seems to be random at the moment?
The torture was because I probably had arranged this present life different, and that I wasn't supposed at all to exteriorize from my body. I was supposed to be here and to actually prepare, marry my husband. That was, I had no opposition to that. So the guy who came as an So Mary, my husband, who is my best friend, my closest friend, meets this person in the Shadow People in 2001 to trigger actually my interest to find out past lives. From the past lives I find the Pleiadian body. We are being in many ways deceived about the structure of our true self. And that's another subject. The mind control exists to keep us away from the truth, because the truth would hurt Satan very much, because Satan is in control of the grey infrastructure, of the Pleiadian infrastructure, of the earth, science and development. So there's something he doesn't want us to know. How he got to have so many assets? In my view, all the types of spacecraft that we meet, all the types of aliens, and all the previous civilizations which are far more advanced, are under his control. And he got this by exploitation, so he's pretending to be someone else. And the mind control is to keep us from the truth, the chance to go free and to be ourselves and to choose to be on any planet we want, the way we want, in our own time, in our own decision. There won't be another chance for freedom, maybe for 26,000 years, because these calendar cycles are very long.
Yes.
So from other research I've done, now is the time to get our freedom, what we call ascension, or to go back to our true self. And only this way we make the most of all this accelerated knowledge we have.
And you also mentioned, Joanna, in another conversation we had, about the technology that humans are using against humans, electronically, microwave, etc.
Yes.
Tell me some of your experience of that.
There is also another truth teller on this, Barry Trower of the Royal Navy. He has given some extensive interviews, and he gives very accurate descriptions. He was at Cause Point, so he trained in microwave warfare. So, but what he describes is very accurate from my experience at Effect Point as a victim.
Right.
The damage is absolutely tremendous. The personality modification is huge because your sense of space, your recall, your focus, your performance, your behavior changes. It's stealth warfare, it's degradation of the body, loss of control of what you can achieve and what you can be as an individual. And the microchip can actually transmit other people's experience straight into your brain and live the experience as at first person. So I know this from other victims. For example, there could be another woman getting raped in Yugoslavia and store the actual rape in a form that can be placed in a file on a laptop. And then if you have an edible microchip, not even an implant, not even an RFID, but a tiny edible microchip, they can actually transmit within a short range, I would say 30 to 40 meters, something like 100 feet, with a click of a mouse, and you're going to leave what her brain perceived, the violence, the beating, the strangling or whatever of that rape in first person. And what they can also do is overwrite layers of torture. So you can have the signal of a person being tortured with a knife plus the flu illness of another person plus the defective heart valve of a third person, one over the other. In other words, they can actually input your brain, and this microchip input is going to bypass any other function you have completely. And they can keep that as long as they want. So if they want to torture you 4 hours, it's 4 hours. 10 hours, it's 10 hours. Every day, it's going to be every day until you have a heart attack. The biggest risk from this type of torture is heart attack, because the pain levels are 50 times above human threshold. And
how is this chip given?
I think that the chip I got must be edible. It's nothing. It's not an implant.
So you would get it. It would be planted in your
food, on something that's not
mall.
cooked, or I don't know, an ice cream or on a burger, or a handful in a sachet of salt, because it's smaller than a grain of salt. That sort of transmitter.
What other technologies are they using, as far as you're aware, to implement mind control? For want of a better term?
It's a trauma-based control, so they say it's mind control when it actually is brain tissue damage. So if you combine brain tissue damage with cardiovascular damage plus microchip transmissions, the person is completely under control. From other victims I've seen, they get brain tissue damage.
Is the brain tissue damage from microwave being beamed at them, do you think?
It's usually lines? These people are getting gang-stalked. And so they have about 25 people on the watch around every target. And they target the heads to deplete them from negative ions, negative iron, to deplete them from calcium. Then they send signals through microchips, plus they damage with extreme low frequencies the cardiovascular system, because all the electromagnetic range harms the cardiovascular a great deal, as well as the metabolism. So by doing physical damage plus brain depletion or tissue damage plus a transmission by microchip, you have someone under control completely. And all these people are on incapacity and are being treated as mentally ill, not injured, which is what they are. There is military grade shielding. I tried to get a roll 200 feet.
Did it help?
I can't get it because UK services, so we call them MI5 or MI6, are totally against it. Nobody has shielding here. It's a fabric. It's a patented 2008. The new patent blocks out everything. Maybe the Queen has it, but nobody else. I don't even think the Prime Minister has it.
All right.
No one.
Right.
No one.
So you think also that there may be incursion from the phone systems as well, the landlines
yes,
as
because
well?
What it is landline can transmit radio waves. I think other engineers know that better. If you run a landline on an electricity line, you can dial in the telephone line and have a switch or a special switch or converter, which is, from what we know, its black box is about 2 inches attached. So you dial in the landline, and then you dial a code, and it sends out from the converter microwave, high frequency laser, high frequency microwave, or extreme low frequencies through the wiring of the building, the entire wiring.
Yes.
So then you think, if I switch on the central supply, it's going to disconnect. But what they do is they pull in from other sources a backup electricity line. So even though your fridge will stop working, they still have connection to beam down harmful frequencies, and they cause a lot of things. They actually started changing my moles, started becoming precancerous, started changing color and peeling off. And because this is the hand is exposed when I'm sleeping, while this one is not. I sleep on my right side always. So it has started making me precancerous.
Right.
And this is a stealth technology. What they did when I reported that is they sent the national grid, and of course they gave the wrong directions. So they sent it 1 block away when they actually needed to check in my building the electricity from my corridor to the wiring into my flat, because that's where the rigging of the electricity is done. It's not done outside, the cables running along the street. It's done from inside the house into, and not from the box. It's not like the smart meter. From the
actual cabling.
Yes, from the actual cabling.
Internal cabling.
Yes.
Well, we're coming to the end of our session, Joanna, and it's been extremely interesting. But I just want to wrap up with also, you mentioned at some point that your husband had, I think in 2008, been getting some vivid dreams of you being in danger. Is that correct?
Yeah. He was in Greece for 4 years. So we had separated, 2004, 2008, and he had these vivid dreams that I'm going to be in danger. So he came here, and soon enough I was in danger. My husband doesn't share my views and has never read my blogs or anything else, and he's not interested in Scientology at all. The danger showed up in Scotland. My blog, I had a blog where some things are useful and some things are just rantings. So it was probably misinterpreted. So they placed some electronic harassment, directed energy weapons in an empty flat downstairs from me. And I understood what they are, so I told the council to get those people out of there. The council delayed, so I pressured the police out of ignorance. I didn't know that the police have instructions to stay out of it. So I was telling the police, raid them. These are weapons, they're beaming, severe pain. I get a heart attack, I get suffocation. You have to raid them now. If I knew better that this is a standard policy, to stay out of it and deny that this is happening. It's not likely to be happening. Of course, directed energy exists, but it's not likely in an urban environment. Please talk to your doctor. We're worried about your sanity. So I didn't know any pressuring to raid. Instead of going away to avoid exposure, because the 9-day exposure of my persistence to pressure the police and the housing council really damaged my health. So I was very angry one day, and I took they were locked in that flat. They came out one day, they went back in and locked the door and were hiding and pretending no one is there. And I took a concrete block and tried to smash the front window to open the door.
You did?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
To open the door from outside. But the glass was absolutely shatterproof. So the concrete block smashed and the glass was there. Totally shatterproof. So I had to give up. But obviously I had been seen by the neighbors trying to break this little glass. And I was hit from a van from the outside and not from the people with the directed weapons inside. They could have shot me from inside and give me a heart attack right outside the front door. They could have done that. It was very easy. And that would be proof that someone inside that flat had directed energy weapons. Instead, I was blasted from a van from the street, which hit me on my left. And immediately my blood pressure went over to 120. So I took a cab and went to accident emergency, where they saw that my blood pressure is sky high, my hands are swollen, and I'm very dehydrated. They said, we don't know what's this. We book you an appointment for tomorrow. The dehydration kept me in agony. This weapon is called active denial system. And it shoots the blood pressure up. If you don't drink a lot of cranberry and orange juice, acidic juice, not water, you can collapse with a heart attack. So I would say 80% of the targets just collapsed in the street with a heart attack and spent 1 or 2 months in hospital recovering. I spent 10 hours walking and drinking fluids. I still insisted with the police, and they said, okay, let's drive you to hospital to check your heart.
But you'd already gone.
And I was afraid I was going to have a heart attack. I didn't have one. I'm taken to hospital, to Wishaw General Hospital. And then they say, oh, there's no such thing as weapons. You're mentally ill. We worry about your mental health. So you're going to be in observation for 28 days. And I was locked up for 28 days. And I didn't take, I refused any psychoactive, is it? Psychoactive medication? Abilify, yeah, the thing they wanted. But I did take ibuprofen for the pain, which was useful. The Mental Health Tribunal was a complete parody. They said these weapons are not being used, therefore that is a consistent delusion. I had a 22-page list of dead people and some coroner reports where the symptoms of the deaths could have been from direct energy weapons. They said, oh, 22 pages, oh, that's too many pages, we can't submit that to the tribunal. I said, it's too many dead people. So they did not submit coroner's evidence that would be supportive. The thing is, the bottom line is this: the active denial system breaks the teeth of the target. So my teeth had started breaking in the hospital. 2 or 3 teeth started breaking at first, and then the rest of them all broke out. So I've lost most of my teeth, first where I was short and then the rest, in less than 10 months, and all the roots are inside, because it was only the exposed part of the teeth, of the tooth, that got damaged. So the next thing I'm supposed to do is go to a hospital and extract all the roots. And I'm not going to do this because I'm still under some covert or stealth harassment from these weapons. And so my immune system is down, and I could have complications with infections. And however, I made inquiries about, I know roughly 100 people in similar situations. I made inquiries about the top 10, 2 Freedom of Information inquiries to the police departments in Brighton for Tim Riffat.
Tim Riffat, yes.
Tim Riffat, yes. Mary Hughes in West Yorkshire, Paolo Fiora in North Finchley, and others. Because the point is not who's doing it. Is it the aliens or the MI5 or the National Security Agency? The point is it's the police departments that have to enforce Section 134 of the Criminal Justice Act, that says that torture is an arrestable offence. However, you would have to have independent proof of torture. To have that, you need the computers of the Health Protection Agency non-ionizing department in Chingford. So what they could do, suppose I complain, I was shot with a microwave on the head and it really burned a layer of my brain. So they could scan my head with a computational dosimetry, segmented computational dosimetry scanner, piece by piece. And they could find out if I was burned here or here or here, depending on the weapon. This is only used for industrial accidents and never for weapons. That's why there's no proof.
Okay, well, Joanna, we're going to have to wrap this up for the moment, and we're going to bring Marie to join us for a further discussion. But you've covered so many different aspects, from the mind control, the stealth technology, to incursions in personal freedoms, to the ET aspect. It's really covered a huge lot, and it's a whole lot for us to try and make sense of and extrapolate from that. I can see you've done a lot of research, and that's fantastic. And maybe we can continue a discussion again in another way individually, or at another time individually. But I'd like to bring Marie in because, again, we've worked with Marie, and Marie also recognises some of the things that you've been saying, which I think is really interesting. So there's some correlations there, and I think that's very helpful for people to see that. So see you again in a moment for Ammach Part 3. Hello and welcome to the second part of our interview with Joanna Iatridou. Joanna had been telling us about this experience that she had here where she was electroshocked and in fact tortured by this being she calls the vertical rainbow person, aligning it to Ra. But anyway, there were some medical implications from this experience, and I would like Joanna to tell us what they are, because I think this is also very important. Joanna.
So what happened after that was stopping of growth, circulation problems. To compensate for that, I did martial arts later on. Mm-hmm. So I was in very good shape, but this didn't fix my eyes or my thyroid.
Okay.
And it didn't bring back the growth hormone. It didn't. The bottom line from this experience is that I thought I had free choice with my life. The shadow ghosts and the angels were friends, and they showed up in human form. So, but the aliens had a different program for me, so I wasn't supposed to exteriorize from my body to achieve the end goal of Scientology and be free from my body. I wasn't supposed to marry the wrong man, so they actually stopped me. They actually terrorized us in Switzerland to stop this relationship. Because if I had married this guy and went to Germany, I also had to have an abortion then. If I had kept the child, married the guy and lived in Germany, I was never going to find myself in England and meet the shadow people from 1962. And that was the whole point, that in 1978, by meeting someone I find compatible, I was going to wreck the plan of these aliens, or whatever else was. My eyesight, which was 20/20 up to 1974, started deteriorating very rapidly. So I lost 12 out of 20 of my eyesight on both eyes in the next 4 years. And since then I'm wearing these very, very thick glasses. And the other thing that happened was my growth stopped, so I stayed 5'2", which was the height I had in 1974 when I was 16. So my growth stopped. And I think this has a similarity with the body in the life support, because those bodies are designed not to have any growth hormone.
And you mentioned also your thyroid?
My thyroid was gone, destroyed 100%. Plus I had circulation problems. The only thing I managed to fix, so the medical impact was huge, and it looks like there is a resonance. There's a resonance between the human body and any other body, and I think that this resonance may very well be some initial or superior goals that link the two bodies together. Maybe our true self is consolidated in energy, and it affects both bodies.
Right.
So loss of eyesight, thyroid damage.